Hello, my name is Eric Follick. I'm a Platonist contemplative ascetic and renunciant, and I'd like to read for you a little translation from ancient Greek that I actually made some years ago. It's an excerpt from the surviving fragments of Damascius's Life of Isidore, the Philosophic History, and it's about an ancient urban hermit named Serapio who lived in ancient Alexandria, Egypt. So here is the little translation. Isidore made friends with this man who surpassed all people in piety and in a life of holy loving wisdom, except for Isidore himself. And the man so greatly excelled in true way of life and speech that what is usually said in a proverb was fulfilled indeed by him. He lived hidden and unnoticed, so that I would expect none of the people then living, neither younger nor older, knew he was the sort of man I say. Nor would anyone else have known the kind of person this Serapio was, nor would I myself know if the philosopher, that is Isidore, himself hadn't told me about him. For he said he couldn't ever persuade him to meet with another man, especially when he grew old. He no longer often came down from his own house, but he lived alone in a tiny house, having in reality taken up a solitary life, only having dealings with some of his neighbors for absolute necessities. He did, though, say that Serapio was especially prayerful, and in the manner of a common man wandered about to all the holy places when he was led by the custom of a holiday. But mostly he spent the whole day at home, living not some human life, but one simply to be said to be divine, always recounting both aspirations and virtues in regard to himself or the divine, but much more meditating in silence. Being devoted to the search for truth and contemplative by nature, he didn't think it worthwhile to waste time with the more technical details of philosophy, but stuck to more powerful and inspired understandings, on which account he possessed and read pretty much only the writings of Orpheus, always putting each arising question to Isidore, who was, so to speak, the utter tops in theological knowledge, and who was the only one he received and was acquainted with as a friend. And indeed it seemed to Isidore that he saw in Serapio the life of the fabled golden age of Kronos, for he continuously did and said nothing else than collecting himself, and always, as far as possible, concentrating on the inward and quite indivisible. He thus very much looked down on money and property, so that he possessed nothing whatever besides 2 or 3 books, including also the poems of Orpheus. He thus very much looked down on the pleasures relating to the body, so that even from the first he indeed only provided the body with necessities, and was through his whole life undefiled by sexual pleasures. And he thus had no care for honor from people, so that not even his name was known in the city. Nor would it have been known afterward, if some god had not wished to favor humanity with an example of the life of the golden age of Kronos, in order that the story would not seem to be a myth, without history having been called the witness. For the so-called Chiron stood at the boundary of the reigns of Kronos and Zeus, whence his double form. But this Serapio, known by the philosopher, let him have been recorded as of such a kind. He made Isidore his heir, not having any family nor anyone else worthy to receive his property, by which I mean his 2 or 3 books. So there you have it. Thank you very much. I hope that's of some inspiration to someone out there. And if you should like to download the original print version of this, you may do so by going to my academia.edu profile at independent.academia.edu eric, ERIC, Fallick, F as in Frank, ALLICK, and the Eric and Fallick there's no space between them, and the E in Eric and the F in Fallick are capitalized. So again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.